Good evening. I would like to call to order the Kaiser City Council in regular session. It is Monday, September 21st, 2020, and ask our city recorder to please call roll.
Councilor Parsons?
Here.
Councilor Herrera?
Here.
Councilor Smith?
Here.
Mayor Clark?
Here.
Council President Freeman?
Here.
Councilor Reed?
Here.
And Councilor Kohler?
Here.
Thank you. Would you all rise if you're able and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, there's a couple of things to celebrate tonight. One are the clear skies provided by some great torrential rain. It's also helped with the fires that we were talking about 2 weeks ago when we met, just as things began to get really bad for the cities in the canyon and affected so many of our neighbors. We're also going to be looking at tomorrow morning at 6:31. We will reach the equinox, the autumnal equinox. So if any of you are doing homeschool things, and I guess a lot of you are, try that experiment with the raw egg sitting on the end during the time of the equinox or thereabouts. The raw egg will stand up straight. And we've had that demonstrated here at City Council several years ago by Councilor Jim Taylor. It was a lot of fun. So there you go. There's your science lesson of the night. With that, before we get into our regular reports and so forth, Mr. Epley, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Over the last 2 weeks, we've had tremendous work that's been done to take care of neighbors and so forth. You've been really keeping us up to date. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the efforts with the city communications and our police to take care of people during this time of the wildfires?
I'm actually going to turn it over to Chief Teague and let him tell you about the fellows that we sent up to the canyon and what their roles were.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Well, they've not only gone up the canyon, they've gone up above Scotts Mills. We've probably had one or two almost every night for almost the last 2 weeks that have gone up there. It's Keizer's guys, by the way, that were on scene or making their way to Georgia Tia's cabin. So we've actually had some interesting work done up there. We also had a UAS, a drone up taking photographs of some of the, I want to say crime scenes, but the death investigations. It's been telling, lots of damage. At the same time, it's remarkable some of the things that haven't been destroyed. I mean, feet away from where a home has been completely taken down to the foundation, you'll have a tractor as close as me to Tim. The seat isn't even melted. Turn the key on, it starts and drives away. It's unbelievable. The people up there, some of whom have suffered tremendous losses, have been in great spirits. It's a real testament to something very good about being an American and Oregonian and suffering together. We're happy. We're happy to be able to do our little bit up there to help them.
Thank you very much.
And as for my part, there's really not a whole lot that we could do down here on this side of the valley. So given the sort of, there was a fairly significant lack of information coming out from any source about the conditions of the fire, of the air quality. And I think it's because there were so many fires and there wasn't a unified command at the beginning. There just was not a great amount of information available. So I spent my time just trying to pick through and find as much information as I could, get it out to the city council so that you could get it out to the citizens, and I could share it with the employees because a lot of them had friends and family up in the canyon, folks that they wanted to help, places that they wanted to keep track of. So that's pretty much all that I was able to do. A lot of you did a lot more. So.
Well, getting credible and reliable information is so critical for people to be able to know what's going on, make good decisions, and also to stop rumors from developing. When there's a lack of information, people start creating plausible notions in their heads about what's going on. So getting a good information out and making sure that we were connecting with Marion County Sheriffs, Marion County Emergency Management was so very important, especially early on. Also for the Detroit community, Councilor Smith spent how many days helping good information get out to people and helping Mayor Trett. So thank you so much for assisting him with that.
Thank you for the information.
And you have some good news for the environment up in the Lake of in Detroit Lake in terms of boats.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Today, I believe the Sheriff's Office was able to pull out the last of the boats. This was a 2-day process to pull 253 boats, and it was a massive undertaking. A lot of people did not have their boat trailers. They were burned up in the fire, and so people were donating their boat trailers. We donated ours, and they lifted the boats off, set them on stilts or on hay bales, and used those and worked together. And I just give huge props to a gentleman from the city of Kaiser, Deputy Garrett Olson, is absolutely our hero. He worked so hard, not only the night of the fire to get people out of there safely, but to organize this massive undertaking of finding all the boat owners, contacting them, and then organizing these groups of 10 to 15 people to go up behind, plows to get the rocks and things out of the way. And you had ODOT with them, and you can't go all the way on Highway 22 because of the damage to the roads, so taking back roads. And then getting everybody on sheriff's boats to get across the lake to get the boats because all the marinas are destroyed, so you can't get down to them. This was just a massive undertaking, and pulling it off in 2 days just shows what kind of a community, and I'm just so blown away by the volunteers. I think that's what's going to get the entire canyon and these communities through. It's just the people who just step up and get it done. So thank you, Madam Mayor, for asking.
Thank you. I know a lot of people have been concerned not only for the boats, but also if the boats weren't taken out, the damage they could have done to the dam and to the environment there as well. So this was a very important thing to get done very quickly. So that's amazing work. The other information I want to make sure everybody is sharing out is where people can connect for the individual resources through FEMA. That is disasterassistance.gov. www.disasterassistance.gov. Anybody who has suffered a loss in one of these major fires in Oregon needs to register with FEMA. They have been on the ground working very closely with the Office of Emergency Management right from the beginning, and they are ready to go for people to register. They registered over 2,000 people the first day, and they were able to start the process to assess what people are going to need, if they're insured, uninsured, underinsured, what other needs people have. They're ready to work with individuals and families and communities on what it's going to take to rebuild and take care of folks. So once again, www.disasterassistance.gov. Please do not accept the help of anybody who says, I'll do that for you. This is free. There's no charge to sign up. There is no middle person. There is no other, there's no easier way to do this. I've already looked at the site. It's easy peasy, and for people with a semi-smartphone, there's an app. You can go there too. Unfortunately, there are sometimes people who try to make like they can grease the skids for you or other scams out there. Accept no substitutes. Go straight to the website, do it yourself. You'll be glad you did. And I know we've all shared it on our media and through our emails, and we'll continue to get that message out so we can make sure we move forward. Councilor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to thank you guys thanks Chris for the information, constant flow of updated information. Elizabeth, Police Department, and especially Garrett Olson, who grew up right here in this town playing Little League, and he emerged as a leader, didn't he?
Oh,
so we're proud of him.
Very.
Really proud of Garrett. And again, thanks for the information ongoing. I reposted some of the business information that Chris had put out. Has been very helpful, especially the one you put out in bilingual. That was very, very good, Chris. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the emergency information is out in many languages. They've been very good about making sure they get materials out to in many languages because we have a lot of primary languages spoken in our area, but of course statewide as well. And they want to make sure they reach people. When you're dealing with something complex, dealing in a language that is not your primary language makes that more complicated. So they want to make sure they get that out there. The FEMA has the resources, and they've been doing exactly that, along with the Office of Emergency Management. Also, for people who are dealing with health issues regarding the smoke and other related issues, Oregon Health Authority, OHA, has some fabulous resources and guidance and tips for dealing with any health effects that people have had from that, and also healthy ways to clean up the ash that may have come into the house or entered some of your air systems. So want to get a big plug out for that too, so we get good information for people. One last thing, down at the fairgrounds, we had both the human and animal rescue operations that were very well funded, very well staffed by volunteers as well as professional organizations. Huge shout out to the Kaiser Chamber of Commerce, Daniel Bethel, Matt Lawyer, to Shani Starr, to Michelle Adame. So many people that went down there and volunteered to help people bring in their animals. Carol Dorfler from the West Kaiser Neighborhood Association will remember 1996. One of the things that we found was people didn't want to leave their animals. So having the fairgrounds open and able to take just about every animal, including that, 150-pound tortoise, that was an amazing picture, was so important for people being able to come and get their horses taken care of, stabled, and the donations that flowed in for people and for their animals to be well cared for was just amazing. So that was phase one. Here we go into phase two. This is long game. And I think that we just saw an example of what that's going to look like with removing the boats. I want to give a big shout out to Dan Kohler, who got the missionary team from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Those young men worked so hard down at the fairgrounds, and watching them ride those goats as they were moving them from stall to stall was a testament to their determination to get it done, even if they had to learn it on the job.
Well, a lot of those kids grew up on farms, and so it was second nature. But they were careful around the 2-ton bull and the big stallion.
We all were. Absolutely. So a big shout out to them. And also one last thing for the walkers. Jerry and Lisa Walker opened up Volcanoes. We didn't know how many people were going to need shelter, and they wanted to be available since they're so accessible off of I-5 and paved. So I want to thank them for their hospitality and caring. I see Patty Tischer here, who helped also with some of the people who were there from the Gates and Mill City community. And I understand one of them, their house survived. So at least one. So that was good news. But thank you to the community for helping all of the people feel welcome here in Kaiser and taken care of. Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did some communication back and forth several times with the family from the Gates area. And I texted him yesterday just to make sure they got home safely and that everything was okay. And he called me back. He just called me back, and he's just crying on the phone. He says, "I can't believe what y'all did to make us feel welcome. And we're home. Yeah, we have problems still. There's a lot of things we have to do still, but we're home, and thank you. Thank you, thank you."
That is wonderful. Anything else on the fires at this point? We will continue to keep the community updated on how we are going to be involved in the larger recovery effort for the Marion County region. Because what happens in the canyon and what happens here, we take care of each other and will affect how we operate going forward. Anything else? Thank you for letting me take this time and change the agenda a little bit to address this. Let's go to now, I don't have anything under committee reports. Do I have anybody here? I do not. Do I have a committee report? Okay, come on down. I'm sorry, I didn't have a slip.
Good evening, councilors, mayor. Jeff Watson from the Planning Commission here, providing an update from the Planning Commission's meeting last week, which had been rescheduled due to our fire concerns. Per Personnel change, we said goodbye to Commissioner Gary Whalen, so he says, and Commission Vice Chair Crystal Wilson, but we are going to be meeting our new commissioners next month. Jane Herb and Francisco Saldivar, will be joining us for our next month's meeting. There was no public hearing. Our business for September was limited to providing some guidance to our beloved interim community development manager. He wanted some feedback from us on new efficiency measures related to Kaiser's housing needs. Those measures were reducing minimum lot sizes, reducing parking requirements, and our opinion on middle and infill housing. Our guidance was that we wanted to have an idea of the unintended consequences of any of those changes, especially lowering density in our neighborhoods. What are going to be the likely noise complaints? What are going to be the likely parking concerns? How can we get ahead of some of these things that are going to result from necessary changes so we can start looking ahead to address those as well, partner with whatever other boards we need to. In general, our plan is to be conservative with any reductions in lot size and parking requirements. We would like to explore how Kaiser could possibly influence the draft model language coming down for HB 2001. And our priorities, as far as the order that we want to tackle them in, we were all pretty much in agreement that lot size seemed like something that would be good for the commission to take up. We could be convinced to discuss infill, and then parking requirements, well, that's on the list too. That's what I've got for you.
All right. Thank you so much. Any questions? Sounds like a full agenda and some very timely conversations about how we do our neighborhood planning going forward.
Better having them now than a few months from now.
Well, and to be part of the rulemaking as much as possible. So if there are recommendations for testimony that we may want to submit to LCDC, the Land Conservation and Development Commission, please have Shane communicate that to the city manager, and we can work on some of that language. I'd be happy to. I have submitted some language and a letter for the statewide transportation strategy rulemaking that's going before LCDC next week, this week. I've lost track. It's 24th and 25th. I think that's this week. This month is blurring. But I think it's important for us to have our voice heard. As I often say, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Mm-hmm. I prefer to be at the table.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, any other committee reports that I may have overlooked? All right, thank you so much. Public testimony. This time is provided for citizens to address the council on any matters other than those on the agenda scheduled for public hearing. We have one public hearing this evening, and that is for the Development Code Text Amendment, Section 2.122, Floodplain Overlay Zone, and Section 1.200, Definitions. I have two people signed up, so I'll start off with Jessica Davidson. Asher's willing to come too.
Thank you. My name is Jessica Davidson, and I am a Keizer, Oregon resident. Over the last couple of weeks, I have really been pondering a lot. The community that I live in, and the leadership that we have here, and our police force that we have here, and how great you guys have been for our community and surrounding communities. As the disasters rolled in to the canyon, I saw many of our counselors step their foot forward to lend a helping hand and help those in need. And I wanted to show my appreciation to you by standing up and thanking each of you. It really shows the community that we have here in Kaiser when we unite together and we hold each other hand in hand to help those in need. And I know that there's times, especially in an election year, that things can get really ugly. As we move forward in the next couple of months, I hope that the community and our leaders support one another through these hard times as we make transitions and changes. And I'm just kind of speaking from the heart, so I apologize if I kind of jump all over a little bit, but I appreciate you guys and the efforts and time that you put into our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your volunteerism as well. Next up is Carolyn Holman to talk about public testimony question about the work session next week.
Carolyn Holman, Kaiser. Yeah, just a question. I think you're going to allow public testimony next week at the work session, is that right?
So the agenda has not yet been published yet, but the order that I discussed with the city manager would be, so everybody hears all the same information, and we can move through the training and the reports we'll be taking. This is a work session. So for those who, I know you know, Carolyn, but for those who don't know, a work session is informational only. No action is taken, but we gather information and ask questions and can take a deep dive into an issue. So the plan is to have some public testimony time at the end so we can get some feedback from people on what they've heard, so we can compile that for the next work session on the same topic, which will be scheduled for the end of October.
Okay, and would that just be people asking, could they make a presentation, and what would be the time limit?
Just a couple of minutes for feedback. In-depth presentations, unless it's invited to be part of the programming. If there's a presentation you feel would be helpful, we might be able to use that for the next one. So please be in contact with me, and we can see what that might look like. But
not for this one, but for the next one?
Yeah, the materials are pretty well organized for this one in terms of training, some of the information about what we're doing here at the city regarding our inclusion council goal. I'm sorry, my brain sometimes goes. And then what we're doing also in terms of moving forward with how we work on issues that we've identified that have a disparate or disparity in the city on how we provide services.
Great, okay, thank you.
Does that help?
Yes.
Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you. Anybody else? I don't have anybody else signed up for public testimony, so the floor is open. Okay, then we will go on to a public hearing. Open public hearing on item 7A, the Kaiser Development Code Text Amendment, Section 2.122, Floodplain Overlay Zone, and Section 1.200 definitions. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Witham.
Madam Mayor, City Councilors, thank you. So tonight we are talking about two separate sections of the Development Code, primarily the Floodplain Overlay Zone, which is Section 2.122, and then secondarily the Definitions section, which is Section 1.200. This item was actually not on the Planning Department's radar originally. But back in March, we ended up participating in what's called a community assistance visit with the Department of Land Conservation and Development staff. They are basically contracted by FEMA that runs the floodplain insurance program, the National Flood Insurance Program that we participate as a city. And I think generally cities are supposed to have community assistance visits about once every 5-ish years. The last one we had was not in this building. So just kind of put in a frame of reference, it was a little bit, we maybe should have had that a while ago, but just didn't. Anyway, out of that process, there's been some changes to the NFIP program, the National Flood Insurance Program, with kind of prescriptive and programmatic language that FEMA wants in local jurisdictions' floodplain ordinances. And so the DLCD representation basically got back with us, all in the midst of COVID and weirdness and Zoom meetings, and said, hey, so we've analyzed your floodplain ordinance. It's pretty good, but, and it was a huge slew of changes that they wanted us to add language and change language that we've long held in our floodplain ordinance regarding definitions and how we specifically define what the floodplain is and all of that. So we ended up basically scrapping our old version of the code and adopting the model code language, with the exception that we have a specific section that talks about our river wall, because it's very Kaiser specific. And then the other elements of it, I would not characterize them as substantive changes. They really are a different formatting more than anything, but there are some language changes in there that they still mean the same thing, they're just described differently. So the one thing I wanted to make sure that council was aware of, in Planning Commission, they heard this at our August meeting and recommended unanimously to change it and adopt the language that we have proposed before you tonight. The one change they recommended that we make is in our old version of the code, we had a definitions section at the beginning of the floodplain overlay zone, and then also there's definitions in our definitions section of our development code. And Planning Commission really didn't like that redundancy, neither did our city attorney so much. So it was determined that all of those definitions should be moved into our definitions section solely and not in the body of the floodplain chapter. The one element I would ask for a little bit of deference on, and maybe our attorney can help me with this, but as we're asking you to consider this and direct staff to come back with an ordinance for adoption, we want to make sure we have a little bit of flexibility just to make sure that there aren't any Scrivenery type of errors in there for sections, because the one thing it did do is it shifted a bunch of references with all the definitions leaving, and I believe that we caught them all. But we kind of wanted to make sure we had the ability to just make sure before we come back with the ordinance. With that, as I said, this is not the kind of change, it's not a change to our floodplain. It's not a change to some of the bigger ticket issues that are out there that you all have heard about over the last few years, that there may be some major shifts in how floodplain management is done in the state of Oregon. This is not that amendment. This amendment is simply really almost a bookkeeping to respond to the audit and to keep our community in the good graces of that NFIP program in the interim. And with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions or, yeah.
All right, thank you. Questions? So I've got a couple. Thank you for the reference to the river wall, because I was trying to go through there and see if I could pick out the things that were Kaiser specific, because as we know, when you take somebody else's model, you always have to make adjustments to make it fit. So thank you for defining, making sure that's in there. So is there a benefit to property owners for insurance purposes, or does this change anybody's requirements or reporting for flood insurance?
No, it doesn't actually change anything for us. What I think arguably what theoretically could happen is if we refused to make the changes that were identified by the community assistance visit, that could kind of put us into having a future issue and kind of getting kicked out of that NFIP program. So that, yeah. So, but the changes that are proposed were not, it won't change anyone's flood zone. So if they have flood insurance now, they'll continue to have flood insurance. And frankly, new construction in the floodplain, the way that this model code reads, and we made the changes that were needed specific to Kaiser, like building 1 foot above base flood elevation, which is a long-held requirement we've had in Kaiser, that continues to be maintained here. And all of the nuts and bolts standards have been carried over and plugged in where there was kind of some placeholders. So.
Okay. Now that's helpful information. And then since it didn't change any zoning or anything, then we're going to be able to still require building up just that little bit to avoid flood damage and so forth. So we won't have another design probably like Delight Street. Love that street, but not a great design. Will it result as we move forward with some of our residential land use planning, taking some properties out or making them less eligible for development because they are too low?
So it won't actually change the process for someone that's in a floodplain currently, and that floodplain that's still there. There's still a number of hoops that need to be jumped through. One of the things I would say that this new version of the ordinance brings in is it brings in some more clarity for developers actually. And just one example that I would highlight is previously there was always kind of a little bit of a weird nuance when somebody wanted to build a house and they were technically in a floodplain, while elevating on a foundation and having flow-through venting, which is kind of a building code mechanism. That's always been real clear and cut and dried, but our previous ordinance didn't really speak to garages. And so there was always some confusion on garages, and this new model code language with some different changes over the years that have been triggered by building code and floodplain development in general. There's actually some new specific definitions for garage floors and slabs that are with a garage and how they're regulated a little differently than the main part of the house. So
they still could be allowed to be built in the flood zone area, or?
So yes, I mean, theoretically, yes. If a property is built in a flood zone, in a well, we would normally refer to as a 100-year floodplain, but it's really a zone that has a 1% of flooding in any given year. They don't like that 100-year floodplain language, but that's what's always in my mind. But when that happens, basically the requirement would be that either a home be elevated, and that any area below that finished floor, so the finished floor would have to be elevated, but anything below, so crawl space, garage, all of that, would have to be built to a flood-proofed standard or a standard that's able to essentially equalize any hydrostatic pressures in the case of a flood. So essentially flow-through venting is what happens, and there's kind of some math that gets involved with amount of surface area and square footage. You have to have vents of a certain size that allows water to adequately move through if there was a big flood event.
Okay. Well, prevention is cheaper than rebuilding. All right, any other questions or comments?
I got a quick question.
All right, Councilor Herrera?
This might sound ignorant, but what is a zone administrator?
The floodplain administrator?
Yeah, administrator, yeah.
So with the National Flood Insurance Program, they require that local cities have a designated floodplain administrator, basically.
So in our case, who would that be?
It's me right now.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
It lives with the community development director position in Kaiser, or at least it has historically.
All right. Any other questions? All right. So I don't have anybody signed up for public to testify on this issue. Is there anybody who would like to address the council on this issue before we close the public hearing? All right, seeing none. Any other questions by City Council? Close the public hearing. Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. May I ask a question of Shannon? Shane did mention, oops, sorry. My mic wasn't on. I apologize. So I just want to clarify, Shane wanted some flexibility with Scribner. Do I need that in my motion as well?
Right, and the best way would be to move to direct staff to prepare an ordinance with any recommended changes from the city attorney or interim community development director. We'll redline those changes for next time. I wanted to thank Shane. It was a lot of work on his end and people in his staff for this over the last several months. It was pretty complicated. Last week at packet time, I thought I was done with it, and I had call Shane a dozen times, it seems like. And so the reason he's mentioned that is, I said, I think we need some latitude because we need to look it over closer one more time. The formatting changes are difficult when you're taking, it's what the mayor mentioned, when you're taking a model code and trying to put in, and then some of the sections are kind of mandatory. And so working through that was kind of tricky. So we wanted a little more time to double check that, so.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. I move that the Kaiser City Council direct staff to prepare an ordinance with the findings to adopt the proposed revisions and also allowing the recommendations from the city attorney and the interim community development as one final review.
Second that?
It's been moved and seconded that the Kaiser City Council direct staff to prepare an ordinance with findings. Lost the line there. For Kaiser Development Code text amendments, section 2.122 floodplain overlay zone and section 1.200 definitions with latitude for Scrivener's corrections and additions. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, let's go to administrative action, which is item 8A, a resolution directing the finance director to review advisability of refunding or refinancing bonds related to Kaiser Station Area A Local Improvement District. A resolution authorizing finance director to enter into engagement letter with Hawkins, Delafield, and Wood, and resolution authorizing finance director to enter into engagement letter with Piper Sandler and Company. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Wood. Madam Mayor, City Council, in 2008, the city issued $26,810,000 in bonds. Those bonds currently have an outstanding balance of $11,925,000, so we've done quite well paying those down over the years. In conjunction with the bonds, the city entered into local improvement district assessment agreements with many of the property owners out at Kaiser Station. Those assessment payments that they pay to the city in turn are what we've been using to pay down the bonds. Currently, the assessments have $11,580,000 outstanding. A lot's happened since 2008. Interest rates have gone up and down a little bit, and right now they are down. So I'd like to get your permission to move forward with engaging bond counsel and also an underwriter placement agent to explore the opportunity of refinancing or refunding these loans. And with that, if there's any questions.
All right, any questions for Mr. Wood? Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I read through the contracts and so forth, they mentioned hourly rates, but they didn't really mention any kind of estimate for the whole project. Do you have any kind of idea of the ballpark of that?
It'll be somewhere close to around $200,000 for the whole thing.
Okay, and so that's for both of them?
That'd be correct.
Okay, and so we invest $200,000 in order to be able to save millions at the end.
Eventually, yes. It sounds like it's a conspiracy, doesn't it?
Okay, thank you.
Well, I think to the point that this is not something that is undertaken lightly or when there's minor variations, because as you said, there's been fluctuations over the years, but this one is significant enough to get your attention. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and what this will do for the city and the property owners?
Well, it's still kind of yet to be determined. It's a little on the early side to give out a lot of numbers. I do know that with the current bond at 5.2% interest, we really could be looking anywhere between 2 and 3% interest as a new interest rate. Majority, actually all of that savings will be passed on to the assessment holders. So those are really the people that will benefit the most. Just off of a back of a napkin, maybe around 1.1 million in interest savings over the remainder of the loan.
So that would be what they would not be paying in terms of interest through the bond. And then benefit for the city in undertaking this would be?
The primary benefit is having lower assessment payments to the property owners out there really reduces the city's credit risk. So the likelihood of forfeitures out there, it's, some of those have fairly significant assessment payments, $60,000 range every 6 months. If those drop significantly, it's much easier to attract business to stay in Kaiser.
So long-term, that's going to make Kaiser a more attractive place for businesses to come and locate if they want to locate in those properties.
That would be correct, yes.
Okay. And then since we've been around that merry-go-round with when things go badly on that LID, don't want to go there again. So it sounds like this is an opportunity to ensure that we have a much higher probability of finishing this out without drama.
That would be correct. I think we have about 8.5, 9 years left, so let's finish strong.
All right, finish strong but quiet. All right, fabulous. Any other questions? Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So Tim, the two resolutions that we have with Hawkins, Delafield and Wood, and then also Piper Sandler, are those the firms we used when we originally did the bond sale?
I believe so, yes. Okay. I think the names have changed slightly. The attorneys tend to move around a little bit, and so do the investment advisors. Okay. This is the same group that we also used for the street fund debt that we used to build the Dearborn Bridge.
Perfect. So my point is they know the city, and they're also very well-established bond counsel and underwriting firms.
That
So
would be
thank you.
correct, yes.
Okay, other questions? All right, Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Kaiser City Council adopt Resolution R 2020 directing Finance Director to review advisability of refunding or refinancing bonds related to Kaiser Station Area A Local Improvement District.
Second that?
It's been moved and seconded that the Kaiser City Council adopt Resolution R 2020 directing Finance Director to review advisability of refunding or refinancing bonds related to Kaiser Station Area A Local Improvement District. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Kaiser City Council adopt Resolution R 2020 authorizing Finance Director to enter into engagement letter with Hawkins, Delafield, and Wood.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that the Kaiser City Council adopt Resolution R 2020 authorizing Finance Director to enter into engagement letter with Hawkins, Delafield, and Wood. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Kaiser City Council adopt Resolution R 2020 authorizing Finance Director to enter into an engagement letter with Piper, Sandler, and Company.
Second that?
It's been moved and seconded that the Kaiser City Council adopt Resolution R 2020 authorizing Finance Director to enter into engagement letter with Piper, Sandler, and Company. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to item 8B, a resolution ratifying the city manager's declaration of a local state of emergency in the city of Kaiser as a result of wildfire conditions, allowance for evacuees chickens and ducks, and recreational vehicles. City manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. City Attorney.
This is my fault.
Thank you, Chris, Madam Mayor, and Council. On September 11, after discussion with council members, the city manager issued a local state of emergency declaration to allow additional chickens and ducks on city lots, in addition to the number allowed currently, to benefit evacuees and their chicken and duck population. In addition to that, the emergency declaration allowed for additional parking both on the street and on private lots for the recreational vehicles for evacuees. Under the main emergency ordinance, emergency declarations from the city manager are to come to council at the first opportunity. So this is the first opportunity. You will note in the ordinance I prepared, it ratifies the attached city manager's declaration and allows him to extend that in 2-week intervals up to 3 times without further council authorization. I haven't talked to the city manager yet about the timing, and I'm not sure what the timing would be and how much this is being used in terms of the recreational vehicles or the chicken and duck allowance. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. So, Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. City Attorney, does that also include roosters?
Does not allow roosters.
Geese?
Does allow male ducks, but not male roosters, which of course is
Male
a
roosters.
bit a male rooster, yeah. A male chicken.
That's a good one.
There's a lot of discussion about that back when we amended it, you know?
Yes, I do recall.
Part of that question was because some of the people that were staying at Volcano Stadium had a couple of roosters that they'd evacuated with them. So if they're not able to have their roosters with them, then why change the ordinance? So,
No, that's up to council if you'd like to change the ordinance.
So I'm going to claim some responsibility here. I got this request via a local person who wanted to help some families, and they had space and wanted to provide some space for them, but wanted to do it right. So I put the question out there, and because we know people were leaving with all sorts of animals, whoever they could get a hold of. Some weren't able to catch all of their pets and household livestock. So the ones that could, it was an opportunity for some people to help some families. So that's where that came from. And then the RVs came from, I think, a number of I think it was your idea.
We got a couple calls.
Mr. Witham, yeah, got some calls about that, which made sense. We did that early on with the COVID situation. People wanted to use them for isolation spaces for family and friends where they could be in quarantine. So, but I will take responsibility for starting the conversation about the chickens and ducks.
And the roosters.
And the roosters. Complaint driven. All right. Any other questions or comments on this resolution?
I just have a follow-up for
Yes.
Counselor Kohler. So do I want to know what happened to the rooster? I mean, did they keep them? I mean, I know it's not, but like, I mean, I'm just thinking if did you take them to the fairgrounds? I mean, did we find them a home?
I can tell you that we had chickens, ducks, including roosters, at Volcano Stadium for over a week. And the ducks went away first, and then when the residents moved back to Gates, the roosters went with them.
Okay,
So we did have roosters in town for a while.
okay.
Sex discrimination.
Outlaw roosters?
Well, I know there's roosters in my neighborhood, but because I hear them every once in a while, but anyway, with that, Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Counselor Kohler, for enticing me to make sure the roosters were safe. I move that the Kaiser City Council adopt Resolution R 2020 ratifying the city manager's declaration of a local state of emergency in the city of Kaiser as a result of the wildfire conditions, allowance for evacuees, chickens and ducks, and recreational vehicles.
Second it?
It's been moved and seconded that the Kaiser City Council pass Resolution R 2020 ratifying the city manager's declaration of a local state of emergency in the city of Kaiser as a result of wildfire conditions, allowance for evacuees, chickens and ducks, and recreational vehicles. Any further discussion? This will make a fun headline, but hey, you know, we aim to please. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, that takes us to the consent calendar. Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have 2 items on the consent calendar tonight. Items 9A is a resolution authorizing the finance director to enter into an agreement with Bluefin for merchant services, and item 9B is the approval of the September 8, 2020 City Council regular session minutes.
Thank you very much. Are there any polls? Councilor Parsons.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I need to pull item B.
Item B. All right. Anyone else? Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Kaiser City Council approve the consent calendar items 9A.
Second it?
Consent calendar item 9A has been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Councilor Parsons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was not here at this meeting, and I have not had an opportunity to view that meeting, so I will not be voting on the approval of the minutes.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the consent calendar item 9A, approval of the September 8, 2020 City Council regular session minutes.
Second it?
A friendly amendment, 9B.
9B, yes, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Second.
All right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously with 1 abstention, Councilor Parsons. All right, this takes us to council liaison reports. And Councilor Parsons, can I pick on you
That's because
tonight?
mine's going to be so quick.
I figured with you getting back a little
Thank
bit.
you. Yes, I just got back.
Yeah.
Came home a little early because of the chaos so I could help also. I know that we were supposed to have a volunteer coordinating committee last week and it was canceled. Also, the parks tour was canceled. So I came back for all of that and then it was canceled. And then next week we have a work session, and then I don't have anything until like the second week in September or October. So that's all I have.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
Councilor Herrera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Been a a very Zoomy week, couple weeks. The St. Vincent de Paul board, Mano Mano, judicial fitness on the 18th. We had like 30 cases before us. It was very interesting. And today, of course, we did our recording for the LOC, League of Oregon Cities conference for one of the sessions that I'm involved in as speaker. And it was very interesting. The session is called How to Engage Diverse Leaders in Our Community. And it went very well. LOC did a great job of facilitating that with all the other counselors of color that were there. Pretty good. I have a Zoom coming up with some of the kids from Kennedy Elementary. I was invited to a Zoom, so just kind of miss being around the kids there. And on the 29th, I'm involved in the serving on a board, people's representation. I'm actually not on the panel, but I will be helping with that. And also the 15th, we had the Hispanic Heritage Breakfast. And on that note, from September 15th to October 15th is Hispanic Heritage Month, which is a celebration of contributions by American citizens of Hispanic or Latino descent. By the way, somebody asked me Hispanic and Latino, and the fastest way or the quickest way I could put that is Hispanic is a person, it's a language thing, Spanish speaker, and Latino refers to Latin American countries, and that goes all the way down, South America. So that's the distinction there. So anyway, I threw that in, but the National Hispanic Heritage Month started in 1968 under President Johnson, who signed it. And it was a week, Hispanic Heritage Week, and then turned to a month in 1988 when Ronald Reagan signed, it was presented by, I can't remember the congressman's name, Roy Ball did the original, who my dad actually knew, did the original, but they expanded to a month. And the reason they picked the 15th is because a lot of the Latin American countries, including Nicaragua, Ecuador, a lot of them got their independence on the 15th, and Mexico's on the 16th, and they were usually around that week, so it was expanded. And it's there's a lot of things going on that. I'm involved in most of them. I'm not going to mention all of them, but it's very very interesting that we celebrate that, and I'm really proud to be Hispanic descent. That's all I got.
Thank you very much. And your family as well. They're doing well, because I know you were very busy helping family.
Yes, we were.
As many of us helping family.
We were
and
very
friends.
busy, and
Yep.
and by the way, I want to applaud all the folks that did that. They were out there, everybody was doing something. I know, and
And you too.
and like the lady that talked about leadership and some of the responses. That's been so wonderful. That's brought out a lot of giving, a lot of helping, and a lot of kindness. And I wish I could have done more. My doctor wanted me to stay out of the air, bad air. Mm-hmm. Which with the COVID, that was my only release, was the walks, and I couldn't have those. So my time was spent with my sister, my elderly sister, and then helping two particular families that I won't get into. But I appreciate everybody's concern and everybody's help. So it's been a wonderful, and thanks for your leadership and everybody else. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Glad you're doing well too. Councilor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So first I'll start off with I think we've finally got a design I just sent it to you, for the city charter review, which is on the ballot, and to get that moved forward. So very excited about that, to see some signs go up. I think that with everything going on in this world right now, it's a perfect time to show support of something that's positive.
Yes.
In politics that you can feel good about voting yes on, and with no argument. Feel like I'm pretty much telling you to vote yes. So
we can do that.
That being said, the last 2 weeks have been obviously slightly chaotic for us, and I ended up though, and I kind of felt bad for him, to be honest. I happened to be the Thursday after the fire was my day to go to the county commissioner's breakfast. So I got there a little early, and all three of them walk around the corner with the sheriff, and they're like, "How are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, Detroit just burned down, including my house and all my friends' houses and stuff, and I really have a lot of questions." And I think President Freeman and Councilor Kohler and our city manager was there, and I think that they just sat back and went, "Oh, this is going to be fun." So I did, what the great thing was is that I was very blunt about some of the things that fell apart. And I will say that after that conversation, specifically, Sheriff Joe Cast did a great job of fixing some of the communication issues that were occurring. Because those first couple days, it was just like, who do you listen to? And I think we can all learn from that experience about major emergency management. I mean, that fire was coming into communities faster than we could even respond. But it was a great thing to watch Marion County as a whole come together. And I think that there's a couple people here specifically that are being rather shy about what they did. I called Mayor Clark at 1 o'clock in the morning when I started getting calls from panicked people up there going, the mountain's on fire, which way do I go? And then I was thinking, and I'm calling Deputy Olson. He's like, tell him to go east because there's, rocks that fall into the west. And, there's something about being on the phone with an officer who's literally trying to find houses in the smoke and coughing and hacking and trying to save people's lives. And if you ever really haven't experienced that, I'm going to say, A, you don't really want to, but B, boy, I really hope that people get a different perspective about law enforcement because these guys laid their lives on the line that night in more than one way. And I know he was one of many doing that. But I do want to also thank our city manager, Chris Epley, because between him and the mayor, they did so much. They did so much and got so much communication out to me, which I was then able to share with the Detroit Lake Community Facebook page. And, there was 500 people on that page when we started that week. There was 2,000 within 24 hours because people couldn't find information anywhere else. And that was so critical to be able to get that information. So I thank both of you for stepping up. You guys you're so shy about it, you're not going to take credit. But I also want to thank Councilor Freeman and Council President Parsons because I texted them and I said, I need you. I know you're not going to step away from, you're not going to be on our council anymore, but 7 councilors in Detroit, 5 of them lost their homes. The city was burned to the ground. They have nothing right now. And I just said, I need you to adopt a councilor. And they both agreed immediately to do that as they wrap up their terms with us. So I really, and Councilor Kohler, thank you so much for the night. He had people organized, and I think after the council meeting that night, both the mayor and I and him went over to move supplies from the Volcano Stadium over to the fairgrounds. It was nothing but absolute teamwork, and I was told by so many people later, and I want to pass on the thanks from that community, those people that had homes up there and the people that had even their boats in the water, all the things that were going on. They thanked the city of Keizer so deeply because they felt as though they had something to grasp onto with the information. So I personally just want to thank all of you for stepping up and doing that. That's the Keizer way. And man, you all shine so much. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate the positiveness that we began this journey. And as I've talked with people, we've let them know that we're not one and done. We're in this for the long haul.
Absolutely.
This is a long game, folks, and I know Kaiser's going to be in it for the long game. So, thank you. Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Oh, you're a hard act to follow, Councilor Smith. And if she asks you to do something, you have to say yes. You can't say no, right? And when she speaks, you listen. So I have said it before, but I have really thoroughly enjoyed the Marion County Commissioner breakfast. And what I appreciate one of the things I appreciate the most is just the camaraderie that we talk about, funny things like Commissioner Bertano makes jam. So does the mayor. So, let's have a taste, test of who really makes the best jam. And I think Sam entered flowers this time. But then when it really comes down to really hard discussions, they're right there at the table and we're there together. So I think that is I don't know that we could ever do that. So that piece is really, really awesome. So thank you for that. And I did share out my counselor report from that breakfast. So that was one. We'll see what we have in a couple weeks. I did attend the Planning Commission. You heard the presentation from Mr. Watson. Again, I'm going to do a shout out to the Planning Commission. They do amazing work under great leadership from our previous community director, Nate, and Shane is right there really asking for feedback, and the commission, they come up with some interesting thoughts and really do a 360 on everything, and I just really, really appreciate their work. I'll echo Gary Whalen has said that, you know, he's not going to be on planning, and I heard him say he'll do almost anything in the city as long as he doesn't have to attend a meeting. So I'm just throwing that out there. You heard it, right? Just don't make him attend a meeting, but he'll probably be there to help. And then also Crystal Wilson. Crystal served 4 years and did an amazing job as well. So thank you to them, and looking forward to our new 2 new members next month. Again, thank you to all the donations. I watched almost every night Danielle Bethel's Facebook Live post. Pretty amazing, the businesses that stepped up for food to serve, you know, the volunteers, but to serve the people. Wilco, I heard all the time from Wilco, you know, when you leave, you don't have a lead rope or a halter. So pretty amazing. And then, what else do I have? Oh, the food bank, the Kaiser Food Bank, I guess it's sad and amazing, but every time I come home on Monday night, tonight I think there was maybe about 20 cars in line. So thank you to everyone who donates food or money. And I think that's really about it. We have the planning session, or a work session, on the 28th, so I'm looking forward to that. And next month, we're really busy with council and another work session, and it sounds like another work session. So it is busy to finish out the rest of the year. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I'm not going to let you just kind of slide off into the sunset here. We're going to make you work all the way to the end. Thanks. Yeah. Love you both. All right. Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You've had nothing going on with school starting and everything else going on, and your students having to deal with so much happening. And thank you for being such a steady hand for them.
Well, thank you. Yes, I will definitely address that a bit. But I was able to attend the West Kaiser Neighborhood Association meeting, and I'm always really impressed with the organization and the support that they have for the West Kaiser area, and the leadership that they provided in making sure that some of our businesses, both in the West Kaiser area and in the Southeast Kaiser area, have some donation sites for the Kaiser Food Bank. And so I just really appreciate being able to attend that meeting. And again, big thank you to all of those involved with that. We had, for the Kaiser Homegrown Theater, they had an interesting Zoom presentation. It was called The Marvelous Journey of Edward Tulane, or something very much like that, as far as the title. And anyway, it was a really interesting presentation, and I really appreciate the Kaiser Homegrown Theater's efforts to do something innovative in this time of restrictions. So that was a lot of fun. School. Let's just talk about school for a minute. I'm going to start with a big congratulations to our Christy Perry, who was just named the Oregon Superintendent of the Year.
Yes.
So they, yes, we're so proud of her. How this happened was we had our weekly all-district staff meeting over Zoom, and she had a whole party come in and sort of interrupt the meeting and make the presentation, and it was just very, very well deserved, and very an important acknowledgement of not only her efforts but all of those who work with her, not only in the response to the COVID crisis, but also her leadership in equity conversations, and she's a really superb leader, and we are very lucky to have her. So distance learning started for the Salem-Keizer School District last week. Kind of depends on what grade you're in, but there have been quite a lot of technical difficulties, both with the district Chromebooks and with Zoom, and Canvas. Yes, and Canvas, and yeah. So we've been working to get those issues figured out. The technology department, never thought they'd quite be in this position, but we are getting things figured out. I would really encourage people of school-age kids who have school-age kids to visit the websites of the schools and the district website. There's lots of troubleshooting suggestions on those websites and just a lot of really great information. So make sure that you check there. Yes, the schools are there to support, but again, right now there's just so many requests for technical assistance that the more you can do on your own, the better. And yet we want to make sure we are reaching out to each and every family to make sure that they have what they need in order to be successful for distance learning. And it is a challenge. So please be in contact with the right people and look for that information. And so, yes, and just know that we are there to support you as teachers, as administrators, and that we desperately want everybody to engage and succeed. And so we are willing to do whatever it takes to make that happen. So, other than that, we have a Southeast Kaiser Neighborhood Association meeting coming up October 1st, and that is about it.
All right, thank you very much, and congratulations to Superintendent Perry. And I also want to congratulate the entire staff, because it's all of you being able to work together that makes our school district shine for and with our students. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not much happened this week, this last couple of weeks. I did attend the Marion County Commissioners Breakfast with Councilor Smith and Council President Freeman. That was very entertaining, and I was impressed at their ability to listen and problem solve and move forward. So that was a very good meeting to attend, not only from the entertainment value, but to see how they really did work together to solve problems. It was very impressive. So that was really good. And then that same evening, I also went to the Traffic Safety Bike Ped Committee meeting. And we got to watch a PowerPoint about some grants from the Oregon and Federals through the Oregon Community Paths program. And it was determined after a discussion with that it was going to be next year probably before that would even be available to look at, but it's something that we want to look at, just mainly sidewalks and paths. And it was an interesting discussion, but nothing that we can do anything with right now today. On the 14th, I didn't attend the parks tour. Oh, that's right. None of us did. Mr. Shane, do you want to talk for a second about the COVID grants?
Sure.
Yeah, by all means.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, right now, so we definitely are still wanting to give out money to any businesses that can qualify. We have started receiving grants, we've processed some. I think we're getting our first couple of checks cut here to get out to folks. The program did have a pretty tight timeline on turnaround, and what we found is that there's a little more strings attached to this money than the very first round that we did back in, what was it, May, I think, the end of May, that we gave out that first $45,000. So it has been a little bit challenging for some businesses to meet the criteria that Business Oregon has established through the program. But absolutely, I mean, your sole proprietor businesses, we can't give you money if you don't apply. So, I mean, that's kind of where we're at. But yeah, I mean, I think I know that Councilor Collier, you had talked to me about a couple businesses that you were aware of, and I would encourage you to have them reach out. The information is on our website in both English and Spanish, and we have other languages available also that the state has translated. But yeah, that's kind of what my update is.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your time and effort and the rest of the staff on those, because I'm sure that'll help a lot of businesses, a lot of people. And then just a couple of things. I've worked with a few people that have been displaced the last couple of weeks, and I've been so impressed with the resilient spirit that they've had. the number of people that have said, yes, we lost everything, but you know what? We're going to rebuild, and we're going to rebuild better. We're going to do all that we can to be back where we want to be and be back in where we want to be. That has been a great testimony to me of how great people are. And then the willingness of so many volunteers to come in and help and donate things, donate supplies, clothing, whatever was needed, it showed up. And it was just really neat to see. And the other one little thing that I really took from all this too is that here we were working together. It didn't matter what your hair color was, what your face color was, what your eye color was. We were working unified together. And that's what we want to do always, is work together. It doesn't matter all these other things. This is what we want. And then we do have a work session coming up on the 28th. So some of the people that have been through McNary High School know the name Samuel Hayes. He just joined the Marines as in the Marine Corps band. And he'll be leaving our community to go into basic training here just very shortly, first part of October. So congratulations to the Hayes family and the McNary Band program, which has produced another good musician. And the last thing I just want to talk about for just a second is that campaign signs can now be up in people's yards. Please be kind. If there's some candidate that their sign is up and you don't like that particular candidate, please treat your neighbor kindly anyway. Kill them with kindness if you have to, and be kind to each other, and we'll get through this season.
And keep your signs out of the rights of way. Just saying. Follow the rules. Thank you so much. Just a couple of things to add. On the 9th, I've been meeting with the Council of Governments Executive Committee and getting ready for the Council of Governments Board meeting, which is coming up this week. The Midwillamette Valley Homeless Alliance, I did miss that because I was assisting family members with evacuation. They are all safe and sound. The 9/11 Remembrance, the Kaiser Fire District has said they were going to do something virtual because they were not able to do something in person. They got a little busy with wildfire and other emergency response. So I'd like to thank the Elks who held a remembrance that morning, and it was streamed on Facebook Live. So thank you to our Keizer Elks. The Midwillamette Valley Council of Governments Executive Director Selection Committee has continued work. The recruitment has closed. They had applicants from across the country, and they are now going through the winnowing process to bring forward a slate of candidates for the next round of consideration to succeed Sean O'Day as the Executive Director of the Midwillamette Valley COG. Let's see, I've been attending virtually the Economic Recovery Team meetings with Marion, Polk, and Yamhill counties and the Governor's Office Regional Solutions. And I've occasionally been able to get some notes out to you on that. Right now, the last one was very much talking about the wildfire response and making sure resources are made available quickly, not only to businesses that have taken a loss due to the COVID shutdowns, but also the ones who have taken a loss because of the wildfires. So again, up and running very rapidly because of the work that was already in place because of the relationships built with the Small Business Administration and organizations like our Council of Governments, which has been able to issue those loans. On the 16th, I did send all of you, reminded you if you wanted to, but you can still watch the video from SEDCOR, the Strategic Economic Development Corporation webinar, talking about our economic update from Tim Dewey, who is an economist with the University of Oregon, and a speaker from the Small Business Administration, talked about the rapid resiliency of the Oregon economy. From July to August, the overall statewide unemployment rate dropped from 10.6 to 7.7%. Marion County's been ahead of the curve in having an even lower unemployment rate. So a lot of the businesses that have been able to stay open using the payment protection program, and also the shift in products that they are producing and their supply chain have kept so many businesses up, running, and hiring. Businesses are hiring. So that should be very encouraging news for our community and for the Marion, Polk, Yamhill County areas at large. On the 17th, I was on a mayor's teleconference with the governor. There were a couple of things that I did bring up I wanted to let you know. One of the things, and I mentioned this a little earlier about the rulemaking that's occurring through the Land Conservation Development Commission, I asked the governor to please press pause. This is in response to the statewide transportation strategy regarding greenhouse gas. There's a lot of cities and counties that really want to participate. However, we've been a little busy. But not between COVID and then the wildfires, it really has diminished our ability to participate fully in the conversations that really need to happen, especially since rulemaking decisions will directly impact how we are going to be able to do our comprehensive planning and move forward, especially with housing. So I did request that she direct LCDC to please press pause so we have a chance to be fully engaged. The other thing I asked the governor to consider was regarding land use and zoning for making sure that people could put residential structures back on their property, especially if they're being grandfathered. If the structure is no longer there, to make sure that they are not restricted from being able to put structures back on their property. We've seen in the past sometimes when somebody needs to put a new structure on that they can't. So I brought that to her attention to please make sure that that is addressed so people don't get hit with a double whammy, that not only did they lose their home, but now there are restrictions and barriers for them to be able to be housed in the future. So there's just a couple of things that I mentioned in that meeting. Thank you. The Kaiser Homegrown Theater Zoom was fabulous. We watched it at our house. Coming up, tomorrow I have the Salem-Keizer Area Transportation Study. Our SCATS MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, will be meeting. We're getting ready for the OMPOC, which is the statewide organization for MPOs, which will be on the 29th. The Council of Governments Board will meet in full tomorrow afternoon. Also tomorrow, if people have a chance to listen in, the Our Salem joint work session will happen. So, that is the planning document that Salem's working on, but because we share an urban growth boundary, what they decide to do and how they're going to approach their land use does have some impact and some interest to us as well. So I would encourage people to tune in on that. This coming Saturday, I believe, is going to be a Wallace House cleanup down at the park. I'm getting a head nod. Do we have a time?
I believe it's 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. So bring gloves, boots, face coverings, and be ready to have at it to continue the work of cleanup down there. All right, and this is sponsored by the city and by the Clyde Creek Watershed Council, am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Looking forward to that, and that's pretty much what's coming up. That's all I got. So that will take us then to other business. This time is provided to allow the mayor, city council members, or staff an opportunity to bring new or old matters before the council that are not on tonight's agenda. City manager.
Madam Mayor, Tracy.
I have nothing.
Chief Teague.
I thought I'd circle back with you about fireworks. You'll remember we had quite a conversation about that a couple times following July 4th. One of the things that someone suggested, may have been me, that if someone wants to let us know of particular violators, we'll go make contact with them. We did about a handful of residences. Have already made contact with them. We'll contact them again next. We had a reminder set for June 2nd, about a month before next July 4th. And of course, those two conversations will serve as their first warning if they're blowing off illegal fireworks, and then we'll follow up. You'll recall that the use of unlawful fireworks is a B misdemeanor. Mayor, I've also talked at some length with Representative Post about some legislation. Some things have intervened in that conversation, but he certainly sees the world the way you and I do. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for following up on that. I really appreciate it.
Mr. Lord.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Shane Witham.
Nothing further.
Mr. Wood.
Nothing additional, thank you.
City Attorney Johnson?
Nothing tonight, thank you, sir.
Any councilors have any questions that you didn't get to ask? Madam Mayor?
A small item down at Delight in Dearborn. Have you heard from the school district?
Interesting question. I actually sent an email to their project manager today, and he replied that they're having problems getting a response from the subcontractor, and that they are going to look for somebody to fix the problem. And the last statement was, "I want it done."
Thank you. It is a trip hazard that's pretty significant, so thank you.
Because as I've said before, they're aware of it, and I guess they're having contractor issues.
Councilor Reed.
Thank you. Also, I just wanted to point out that...
Microphone.
Thank you, sorry about that. I wanted to point out that the school zone flashing lights are on for a reason. My first assumption was that it was just automated and they didn't really mean it. And I emailed Mr. Lawyer, and he said no, that the school district has requested that those lights be on for the meal distribution for the schools there. So I believe they're on between 11 and 1. So anyway, those are on for a reason, so slow down.
Aye, ma'am. Anything else? Anyone? Councilor Freeman.
So in August, we didn't have National Night Out. And then I heard that was supposed to be the first Tuesday in October, which would be the 6th. Are we not having national? I mean, it was just in my calendar. I was looking through our, next dates of events, and it wasn't on there. So I just wanted to ask about it.
Yeah, it's a good question. I too heard it was pushed back to October, and then the world blew up, and I'll have to get back to you on that.
I know with it getting darker may pose a little bit more of a challenge as well, since most of them don't start till 5:36, and it's not that I mean, I love that event, but I also get the whole timing of everything, so.
It's not very far away. I'll figure it out, and we'll send you an email letting you know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. So with council's permission, we did have a late arrival for public testimony, so I want to give Mr. Ratifying a chance to speak if he would like to do so at this time. So I would like to invite you up if that's all right with all y'all. All right, please come on up.
I was going to thank you, council members, Rich Rodriguez, Keizer, Oregon. I have some interest in the bond refunding and many other areas in the city. And I was going to kind of address this in a sidebar conversation with our finance director. But one of the things as a counselor I would be looking for is tell me what the net present value of the savings of the refunding is. That's kind of a unit of measure in bond refunding. That's something I would want to know. That's really all I've got to share. Thank you.
So, Mr. Wood, I would, as we proceed and as we discussed earlier, that this is that first inquiry into what the metrics are going to look like, and then they'll be reported back to council and will be available for the public. Is that correct?
That is correct, once we get a little farther down the path.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Written communications, I've got a couple of items. One is something that people have brought up in the past, so I thought I would point this out. We get the regular newsletters from the Salem Leadership Foundation, and oftentimes it has been suggested that programs where people who are residing in homeless camps and so forth be able to work for keeping the place clean and tidy, and some other simple tasks where they are participants in their own community, and that has indeed happened. So I wanted to share that. Church at the Park has pioneered 2 effective strategies for serving over 100 people a week with various services: Cash for Trash, which rewards people for keeping the park clean, and Safe Parking, a network of 8 sites that host up to 6 cars at night for safe overnight shelter. Church at the Park and the churches and the Cascade Football Club are the partners. So I wanted to share that with you as the community continues to innovate, not working for, but with people in our community who are experiencing homelessness. I also wanted to share with you a note from Ms. Summer Reyes, and I'm sorry I didn't read this last time, but unfortunately the address was incorrect and had to be rerouted to City Hall. And she says, "Dear Mayor, my name is Summer Reyes, and we've met several times. I've lived in Kaiser since 2012, and I am in favor of the resolution for Kaiser to be an inclusive city that has been proposed by Kaiser friend and resident RJ Navarro and countless other friends of color. Constantly concerned, Summer Reyes." So I want to get that into the record. Also wanted to notify everybody of a public hearing. Marion County is going to have a public hearing on September 30th at 9:30 a.m. about the I-5 Aurora Donald interchange. This is a very, very important project for our region, and it's going to be critical for this project to go to full construction, if at all possible. It's currently in 2 phases, but this is going to be fabulous for safety, accessibility for our region. So looking forward to that. And then I got a notice from the USS Oregon, SSN 793, I'm sorry, I don't know what that stands for. The Commissioning Committee, the Portland Council Navy League of the United States. And what they're doing is letting us know about in the summer of 2021, the U.S. Navy will commission the USS Oregon, SSN 793, that must be its ship number, and the 20th submarine of the Virginia class and the second ship ever named for the state of Oregon. The christening ceremony was at General Dynamics Electric in Connecticut on 5th of October. A great honor for our state and acknowledges our contributions to the nation's defense. And then we, the committee, seek your support in honoring the crew and celebrating the ship's entry into the fleet to deliver advanced capabilities for undersea supremacy. So it goes on to talk about the work being done to support and to honor the ship named for our great state. So I will put this into the record. And opportunities, if people want to also contribute to that, are also made available. That is all I have for written communications. Agenda input. On September 28th, next Monday, we will meet as a work session to talk about community makeup, demographics, and diversity. This relates to our council goal regarding inclusion, and will also involve some training that we are going to be sharing that Councilor Reed and I have both been able to participate in through the Oregon Mayors Association and the National League of Cities, on cities in particular. On October 5th, 7 p.m., City Council meets in regular session. On October 12th, we have a work session. Tracy, do we have a topic for that one yet? Okay. And the only reason I wouldn't move the one at the end of the month up is that it's going to take us time to do some work after the one on the 28th. Then on October 19th, we will meet at 7 p.m. in regular session. October 26th, we will have our second work session on inclusion and disparity. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and leave the work session on the calendar unless in case a topic does come up. I don't know where we are with some of our planning efforts, and if one needs to be put in, then we have a placeholder. So I'm looking to Mr. Witham. I'm not sure where those are at right now.
Yeah, actually, I had a conversation with City Attorney Johnson. Our cost of growth impacts on the transportation system project that we've been working on. I just had a conference call with our consultant last Friday. I actually have another call with him tomorrow, and we are looking to bring that to Planning Commission in October most likely, and may be ready to come to council to share those findings and that report. I'm not sure if the work session or a regular council meeting is the more appropriate vehicle, so I'm going to defer to our legal counsel as far as how that exactly gets done. It's not, the issue with the project is it's not like it's a comprehensive plan change or a formal land use action. It's more of just a study. So kind of getting the appropriate way of that being accepted, adopted, acknowledged at the council level, I'm not sure how or what the right word is. So, but I will definitely keep you posted, and now I know in the back of my mind a date that might have some opportunity for us. So.
Well, that's complicated, and as that study and the other studies that we have engaged in have moved along, it might be a good opportunity for a refresher and then the findings that have emerged since the last time we heard about this. So unless there's objection, I think that might be a placeholder if that would be appropriate for that. Okay. Is there anything else for the good of the order? All right, it is 8:30 and we are adjourned. Thank you all.